hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of minor lockdown offenses are simply being thrown out or abandoned. My theory is that the case against Tamara Lich and Chris Barber is modest and weak and political, and frankly, it would not be pursued had there not be so much political buildup around it. So now the government can't lose face. If they were to abandon these minor charges, the same way these 300 BC cases were thrown out in one day, it would be too embarrassing because they built it up as this hill to die on. But if but I would suggest, based on my understanding of things, and of course I haven't been there in trial, that the case against Tamara Lich is so obviously a political case, a emotional case, not rooted in the facts or the law. And so maybe I would say those prosecutors have a bloody tough job to do, because at the end of the day, this judge is going to apply the law. She's not running for mayor. She's not running for MP. And if she's going to do her job, she's going to say, no, there's no conviction here beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that the prosecution sort of wishes this case wasn't before the courts. That's just my theory. What do you think of that?
I totally agree with you. I might be naive and somewhat idealistic, but I think the prosecution just cannot secure this conviction given that the case itself is impossible. I will give you a sort of digression related to your speculation that the prosecution doesn't even really want this job. They didn't want this gig. Chris Barber remarked in some of the videos that were played as evidence, and this is something that I confirm myself through personal anecdotes, personal conversations, that a lot of police officers that were required, or maybe required is the wrong word, but commanded, ordered to do this or that during these freedom convoy demonstrations or across the broader COVID-19 enterprise, like arresting someone for not having a mask at a Tim Hortons, these absurd commands. They don't want to do it, but most people comply,
Yeah.
including police officers. And I think that's true for the prosecution as well. I mean, this whole apparatus of control and abuse has really revealed a lot and made slaves out of many people in many ways.
We're talking with Robert Kraychik. He's been on the ground in the court reporting every day from the trial of Tamara Lich. You can follow all his work at tamaratrial.com. Hey, I want to do one more thing. We talked about the judge, we talked about the prosecutors. I have had the chance to speak with Lawrence Greenspan, who is the Ottawa criminal lawyer defending Tamara. And I have to say, I'm a fan. I've met probably 20 different lawyers over the last few years with the Fight the Fines Project and the Democracy Fund and all the different battles. And we've got some very interesting and some very sharp lawyers. One of my favorites is Sarah Miller defending Arthur Pavlovsky, for example. But with fairness to all the other lawyers, I have to say I I believe that Lawrence Greenspan, because of his seniority, because of his command of the law, his familiarity with very complex and serious cases. I mean, he's taken terrorists as clients. He's taken murderers as clients. For for his personality, for his intelligence, for his experience, for his seniority, for his command of the bar and the bench, like he knows who's who in the zoo in Ottawa. I think Lawrence Greenspan may be the best lawyer I have encountered in the last 3 years. That's how he has come across to me in my conversations with him. I want to ask you how he comes across in court, and then we're going to play a couple of clips of your interviews, brief interviews with him. So first of all, give me your impression. What's he like in the court? Is he bold? Is he calculated? Is he friendly? Is he dramatic? How does he come across in the court?
So far, he's succinct and to the point. There was one moment yesterday where he was a little bit perturbed, let's say, with some timeline issues. But I'll have to defer to your assessment on this. Even though, yeah, I'm in the court every day, you're not. Your exchanges with Lawrence Greenspan are obviously of a much deeper flavor than mine are, given that at this stage in the trial, the prosecution is still laying out its witnesses, its evidence, and Lawrence Greenspan still hasn't yet had a time to really showcase his talent
Right.
when the defense gets their chance to start doing that. So, folks, from what I've seen so far, competent lawyer, not excessively verbose or super animated, succinct to the point. And as far as one point of, as I described it, sort of frustration, this related to a timeline issue that occurred yesterday in which the prosecution wants to introduce something like 22 more witnesses. And that wouldn't be problematic unto itself, but let's just look at the rate of speed thus far. We're 8 days into the trial. We've gone through 2.5 witnesses.
Huh.
So let's just do the math, right? I mean, that's going to be what, 90 something days, 99 days, if the pace continues, assuming it doesn't get any worse. And only at that point would we begin to see, the defense offer its pushback.
Well, this is madness for a mischief charge. It's absolute madness. And I have no idea what 22 different witnesses would possibly have to say that bears on what Tamara Lich actually did. It sounds like it's a political stitch up. Hey, we've got a couple of quick clips when you buttonholed Lawrence Greenspan coming and going from court. So let's just play a few of those moments just to give our people some of the flavor of it. Here's the first. These are short clips. Let's take a look at the first one.
We've got, we just finished day 8. The Crown said that they would have their evidence in 10 days. And there's no way in the world that's going to happen. So the judge is looking at finding an additional 2 weeks. The way this trial is going, I don't think 2 weeks is even going to be enough. So at some point we have to sit down, and I assume that's going to happen on Monday, and realistically see how the Crown is going to, how long it's going to take for the Crown to get its evidence in.
You know, I use a phrase from time to time. The process is the punishment. Tamara Lich not only has had her entire life disrupted by the charges, but just the actual time in Ottawa, weeks with the lawyers huddled, preparing, weeks in court, now extra weeks to come. Nobody can do that. Nobody, I mean, and by the way, she doesn't even live in Ottawa. She lives in Medicine Hat. So you've got the hotel and you've got the discombobulation of her life. 22 witnesses for a mischief case. That's not even real. That is a political frame up. Actually, you sort of did already refer to that comment. So let's skip to the next clip. I'd like you to unpack this one. Let's take a look.
Can you remark on your experience or knowledge of mischief convictions or sentencing?
Yeah. Mischief is a low-level criminal charge, but it is a criminal charge. And Tamara Lich has already spent 49 days in jail. And there's a lot of time, a lot of court time, and a lot of resources being spent on this prosecution.
And that's what he said before there was a contemplation of expanding it. You know what? He's very mild-mannered because he wants to save his fire for the actual courtroom. He's very smart that way. He's not over chatty. He's making some points, but no judge would object. I don't know. If you need 22 witnesses to prove that Tamara Lich is guilty, if they had one witness to prove she's guilty, I might be afraid. If they needed 22 witnesses, that tells me they don't got nothing.
That is such a good point, the way you're putting it, because there is this sense of overflow, of just excess in terms of the presentation, redundancy. And to your implicit point, it's like they're just trying to see if there may be a shred of something that might stick somewhere. And I actually want to remark on something you said a moment ago about the process being the punishment. And this relates to the sort of imbalance in capacities between the government on the one side, ostensibly with unlimited resources, and the defense on the other, which are ordinary citizens and have limited resources. So when the prosecution dumps all of this so-called evidence, remember, they've got access to everything. This is a massively documented event, thousands of hours of footage, photographs, all kinds of witnesses you could talk to, saw this or that or the other. They've also got these chat logs that they intercepted or captured from presumably the mobile devices of both Lich and Barber. So I think they sort of broke into it with some de-encryption program because they mentioned it was WhatsApp and Signal, Telegram. So you've just got this Mount Everest of data. And the prosecution has no intention of going through all of it. They're going to use keyword searches to find particular things they want, or search for certain dates when things happen that they think they happen. Now, they just dump that on the defense, right? And then ad hoc, in sort of play-by-play style, freestyling within the context of the trial that's already begun. They're like, oh, you know what? We want to use, page 306 from this chat log. Oh, you know what? I want to use minute 56 from video 380. You know what I'm saying? So there's this total overbearing punishment. It's almost abusive.